Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. This is Kelly Ramsey, and I'm just checking in for a minute. I wanted to give you 3 quick tips to making change happen. And so I am had a very productive day today. I don't know if this will work up here, but hey, Dee, it's Kelly. Hey, so I wanted to tell you really quick on how you make change happen. Yes, I am parked at a stoplight. No, I will not be looking at you in the camera because I'm driving. But I had to do this really fast. And so one thing that I know about my life over the last 17 years, yes, I know, Deej. So the last 17 years have been amazing. And I say amazing in the most humble way, because that amazement wasn't easy. It was hard work, but after 17 years of doing the work and putting it in and putting forth the effort, I know that change can happen. And so I was laughing today with my sister Yolanda, and we were just laughing at the 17 years of rich experiences that we've had and how we were poured into, but how we took what we were poured into. And so we were poured into, she was talking about the idea of holding on to things even before you're in that moment. So at that moment, she was talking about me and actually Deidre, our little nuggets we would give about relationships, about being married, taking care of our families, our households. I'm paused so I can look at you right quick. So like taking care of our households, our families, and how she was watching us all this time. And as she was watching us, she was also taking notes of it and writing it down and putting in her hope chest is what she called it. And so not waiting for when she gets into that place, but already having an arsenal prepared for when she does so she can do the work. So thank you for joining me. And so I was just thinking about that. I said, you know what? Change can happen because I'm a living evidence of that, a living epistle of change. And how when you apply yourself, you can change old habits, old ways, mindsets. You can change all that. And so I thought about 3 things that made that possible for me. The first one was admitting that where I was not where I wanted to be. And that I had to be able to do something different to change that. And so realizing that you are in need for some change is the first step, because some of us never change because we think, oh, this is just my life. This is just what's owed to me. And so we're stuck, and we stay stuck there because we don't even realize that we need a change. But you can't realize that until you're presented with something that's different and something that challenges you. So a lot of my change didn't happen because I was on board. Oh yeah, I'm ready to change. A lot of my change happened because my people who loved me and who cared about me, people who loved me and cared about me forced me to get out of old places. So this is not working very well. Sorry. So they forced me to get out of old places and to really look at what needs to happen to get out of those old places. So that was the first thing. So number 1, recognize that you do need a change. Like, you need to get this change happening. The second one was that I had to then be willing to be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in the place as I was processing through. Uncomfortable in what I used to sit in and not being able to sit in it anymore. And uncomfortable enough to get myself moving. And so I can remember a trip before I moved to Oklahoma, a trip to visit friends, and those friends made me uncomfortable because they called me on my stuff. They called me on where I had dropped the ball, where I was trying to blame my, at that time, my ex-husband now, but my husband, where I was trying to blame. They made me take some of that blame. They made me take responsibility for the parts that were mine. And it made me uncomfortable. And so after going through that, and actually going through deliverance in that particular trip, and if you have never been through deliverance, you may want to look it up and check it out because it is life-changing. And so after going through deliverance, I remember flying back home to California from Oklahoma on the plane. And I felt so naked. I felt stripped because all of my excuses, all of the things that I had relied on as strength were now gone. And yes, change can be uncomfortable. And so all of those things that I relied on and excuses that I relied on, they were no more, because it was only me. And if I was going to change anything, I had to do the work and make it happen. And honestly, I wasn't ready to do the work at that time. I was like, no, that's okay. I don't want to sign up for this. And so I had to be uncomfortable. And then the third thing that really started my change to happen was that I began to take responsibility for the future that I wanted to have. Now, that taking responsibility, what it looked like was not pretty. The taking responsibility was owning what's mine and then getting rid of the things that were not mine. It was owning the fact that I had been passive because I didn't want to deal with stuff. And because I didn't want to deal with it, then I'll just ignore it like it's not here. And it was there. It was still there. It was still relevant. It was still happening. I just didn't want to face the fact. And so in that, okay, I will never do this again because this is not working. Note to self, I'm laughing. So in that taking responsibility, I began to put some things in action and make some choices. Began to pray, began to hear from God, and then I made decisions that were life-changing, which is what brings me to today, 17 years later. Free, set free, not in bondage, living in what God has called for me, living a prosperous life, living a full life, and walking it out, and unashamed of it. Because I used to be so ashamed of everything I did. I used to be so afraid. I used to be just tormented by the what ifs, and I can't do that. You can do that, but I can't do that. And I was just laughing today thinking about all this, because I said who I am today is so far removed from who I was 17 years ago when I came to Oklahoma. Like, I was laughing today. I can share this. Deidre will identify with this. So I was in the store going to Q getting me some frozen yogurt after lunch. And so a guy, the store owner, he's holding the door open so I can go out. But there's another guy coming in. And so he comes in before I get ready to go. I said, hey, he wasn't holding that door open for you. He was holding that door open for me, just like that. And the guy like, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I said, but the Kelly of 17 years ago, one, I would be like, I don't need you to hold my door. I could hold my own door. I don't need any men, because I have hatred for men, even though I was married. And so then to joke with somebody coming through the door, another man, about, you need to hold that door open for me, to take my ownership of who I am, I never would have done that. And so I just laughed out loud, and I was like, oh my God, this is what it means to be free and in freedom and to truly change. And how when you submit yourself to God, He can do it. So your three things to change. Just three simple things. 3 things to change. 1, you first have to admit that you do need a change. 2, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And then the third thing is that you have to be willing to then do